Lovely, perfect. Here we go. Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of the harvest season. My name is Al.
And my name is Jonnie.
And we're here today to see how unhinged this podcast can be. It's either going to be unhinged or it's going to be really low energy after 5 minutes. I'm not sure which because it's incredibly late for me. And for some reason, I'm still doing this. Here we go.
Here we go. I'm putting down money on both. It's going to be both. It's going to be both. We're going to be unhinged and low energy.
Amazing. Perfect. Just what we need. So for some reason, we're going to talk about Lego Fortnite because I'm still confused by it. I've played a little bit of it. Jonnie has played slightly more of it, and we're going to talk a bit about that. We've got a bunch of news that we're going to go through. This is your last news of the year because the next episode is being already recorded already. And so if it's not mentioned in this episode, it won't be mentioned until the second episode of next year, because the first episode of next year is being recorded this week as well. Although I guess if something comes up between now and then, there isn't an episode before then that we'll be recording after then. So therefore, if we have some news, we can include it in that, but it would need to happen in the next 4 days. And realistically, this is probably going to be a quite quiet week.
Come on, Al. Why did you say that? We all know now there's going to be so much news between now and Friday.
Anyway, so we're going to talk about the news. But first of all, Jonnie, what have you been up to?
What have you been up to, Al?
Other than traveling.
Yes, I've been traveling, but there's this really great game that I've started playing. It's called Coral Island. I don't know if you've heard of it. And it's really good. I think last time I was on the episode, I mentioned that there was a slight bug with the museum.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to put it down until that's fixed. And then talking about it on that episode made me think a lot about Coral Island, and I went immediately straight back to playing more Coral Island. The bug has apparently now been fixed since I've been away, so I'm excited to go in and donate a whole bunch of stuff to the museum. But that game is so good.
You're just driving up with a dump truck and just like emptying it in.
Yeah, pretty much. I have so much stuff to donate. I'm going to be getting so many rewards. I'm only at the end of spring, I think.
Okay.
But just like the diving is a cool addition. I like the way they do the mines. All of the characters are like super hot and also super diverse, which is like I find it interesting that they've like managed to just tick so many boxes. And look, when you were starting to say that this is the new Stardew Valley, I was like, yeah, come on, Al. It won't really be the new Stardew Valley. This is the new Stardew Valley. It's right? so good.
I do think that I will continue to keep going back to Stardew Valley when he adds updates. But I feel like this is my new comfort game rather than Stardew.
Yeah, I guess for me, the part that and this is only because I'm new into it, is like how possible is it to do different sorts of farms? You know, I still think back to the early days of this show when you guys did the was it the animal only farming episode in Stardew. You like in Stardew you can do lots of different challenges, right? And
we did a mining one.
Oh, that's right, you did the mining one. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious to see how easy it will be to push the challenges, because the way the game is structured, it feels like you do have to do everything.
So I think that's the best way to play this game, but I don't think anything requires you to do any of them. So for example, like you might be thinking about, say, the sprinklers. You need to go diving to make sprinklers. But you don't need sprinklers. You don't need to make sprinklers. You can still farm without sprinklers.
I definitely need sprinklers. I don't know. Nobody got time to.
No, but my point is just I think if you want to just go and mine, I think you can probably just go and mine. If you want to just go and dive, I think you can probably just go and dive. I think it would still work. It's not necessarily the best way to play this game, but I think it is definitely possible to focus on one thing and one thing only.
Yeah, I guess maybe what I'm curious about is and I'm not that deep into it, is their version of the community center, although there's kind of like two versions of that that seem to require at least progressing through the mines and progressing through diving.
That's true. There is no capitalism equivalent. You can't just like pay your way through the community center equivalent here.
So yeah, I just think there's so much going on in the game. My only real criticism so far is that the start is almost like a 1-for-1 match of Stardew Valley. That I think if I hadn't heard from you that this game is like really good. I may have just bounced off because it felt a little too Stardew cloney. Because they introduced like diving and those things a little bit later. You know, it's like day 8, right? Not that much later, but that's still on a day-to-day perspective about an hour and a half in. So I just wish there was something that happened a little bit earlier to be like, no, we're not just Stardew. There is more going on here.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair. I think I don't think I would ever say this game is perfect. I think this game could still be improved more. And I hope they're going to continue to do that. They do have plans to continue to do that. And I do have some other thoughts about this game that I will bring up in a future episode, so I don't want to talk about it all just now. But yeah, I think the point of a replacement for Stardew, if you will, right, which by that I just mean what is considered the de facto of this is what a farming game should be, or this has pushed things forward and not taken any steps back, which I do think both Stardew and this game did. I didn't have an end to that sentence.
Well, I think the key for me is that this is feeling like a game that if people are interested in the genre will replace me recommending Stardew. And I think the visual style of that is a huge reason, because I a lot of us like the pixel art style, but I think this works a lot better for more modern. It will just maybe resonate with a wider group of people.
I hope so. I really hope that this game does really well, because I think there's so much more potential. And yeah, let's not continue talking about that too much. Great, fantastic.
Great.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah. I'm glad that you were convinced by what I said and did not disagree with me on it. And maybe some other people on future podcasts that may have already been listened could listen to this and see that I'm not alone. It's not just me that's talking about it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, but that's all I've really had time for. So, Al, what have you been playing?
Good question. What have I been playing? Pokemon, I think. It's probably about it.
Pokemon is the new DLC out?
Yeah, it came out on Wednesday, I think. Wednesday or Thursday, depending on your time zone. It was technically Thursday here. So that's basically been my Thursday and Friday and Saturday and now Sunday. That's been basically all I've been playing. And before that, I was just playing Pokemon because I was trying to do the Flabébé outbreaks. So a lot of Pokemon. I don't really think I played anything else. I maybe did a little bit of a Highland song, but...
Yeah, I would recommend going to a doctor for all your Flabébé outbreaks.
I still love this game. I think the DLC is great. And if you want more thoughts about my opinions on the DLC, then tune into It's Super Effective 2 days ago.
I'm looking forward to hearing how people feel about the DLC, because I feel like after the first DLC came out, everyone who was into it was kind of like, well, it's more of the game and it's not done. So now that I guess it's done, I'm curious to hear what people have to say.
Yeah, well, this week's episode doesn't have the story in it. We're just talking about the new mechanic stuff. But next week we're going to talk about the story stuff. Yeah, I mean, I really like it. There are still fundamental issues with this game. It doesn't fix the fundamental issues with this game. But I cannot say that I haven't had a lot of fun with this generation, even with all of its flaws.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I feel like this kind of split's the wrong word. I feel like in the last few years I've leaned more into, and I don't know the right word, so I'm just going to say non-main series game, but like Let's Go and Legends Arceus.
The additional generational main series games.
Great, whatever.
That's how I would describe them.
Great. But I really like those games, right? I just want the more experimental version of Pokemon at this point. So it's good that everyone can get different versions, right?
I think I would agree with you on that. Like, I actually, like, as much as I've enjoyed Scarlet and Violet, I think I did enjoy Legends more. And Let's Go, I also really enjoyed. Like, I mean, let's be honest, I like all of the games they make because, funnily enough, I keep playing these games because I like these games. I have always liked these games, and I suspect I always will like these games. You know.
And you play these games in a way where you try really hard to make it as miserable as possible to experience the game.
Not always. I've only done one Professor Oak challenge this year.
That's still like one too many.
Yeah, look, we all enjoy different things, and I enjoy some kinds of challenges like that. I do not enjoy the challenges that involve battling, and I never will. But I do enjoy collection-based challenges, and I think that Professor Oak challenges give it an interesting, different way of looking at it. That it
I
You
think
think
Professor
about the
Oak.
game differently, you know?
Yeah, I think they made sense up until Scarlet and Violet. Where how many do you have to get before you can even challenge the first gym?
It was like 600 or something.
See, it's just an unreasonable number.
Like it was
It's
basically all of them, right? I think there were maybe 20 Pokemon that you couldn't get before the first gym, and most of them were post game. So it's like you catch almost all of the Pokemon, and then you do all of the gyms basically. And then I think there's a couple of them that you have to unlock, like the different traversal options. Like there's some that only spawn on a specific island, but it's like two.
yeah.
So you're like, okay, I can catch 600 Pokemon, and then I'll do three of the three of the traversal based things, and then I can catch two more Pokemon, and then I do all of the gyms. It was fun. I really liked it. It was obviously very different to other ones. So just because you like a Professor Oak challenge in one of the more traditional Pokemon games, right, where you're like, here's an area, defeat the gym leader. Here's an area, defeat the gym leader. More linear games. I love how we call that traditional. It's like the first games weren't like that. Um, if even if you just because you like that doesn't mean you'll like it this way, but I do think that the kind of person who likes one is going to like the other as well, right? Like, actually, what I really liked about that was you can, if you get bored training up a Pokemon, you can go catch another one. Like, go to the other end of the map and go catch some different Pokemon. Like, you're not the problem with like traditional Professor Oak challenges. Like, if I did a Brilliant Diamond one when they came out, and oh my word, was that horrific to start with, because you have to evolve your starter to like have to get them to level 36, and you have to get another Pokemon to like level 42 all before the first gym. That's dreadful, right? Whereas at least in this game you can like go all over the map and try lots of different things, and most of the time you're catching Pokemon, right? You don't have to evolve many Pokemon because most Pokemon spawn in the wild.
So I don't want to enable this anymore, but I'm going to. I feel like this sort of concept, but if it was like a fourth path, so obviously in Scarlet and Violet you had the three different paths that were tied to the three
Yes.
characters. I feel like if there was a fourth path that was tied to the number of Pokemon that you have collected, and there was some form of progression locked behind it, that could actually be quite compelling. Because the thing that kind of makes it disjointed for me is you go around and you're basically the greatest trainer that's ever lived before you've challenged a gym, and then you show up to the gym and they're like, "Oh, hi, you're probably terrible,"
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
steamroll them. So I would really like it if that was like a fourth path, and it doesn't need to be at the same level, but some form of progression locked behind it might be quite cool.
That's a really interesting idea, because like very rarely in Pokemon games is anything of note locked behind Pokemon collection, which seems a bit odd, right? Like in the first games, is there anything that's locked behind Pokemon progression, like
Yes.
collecting Pokemon?
There's the research assistants that show up, and if you've got a certain number, they
Oh,
give
that's true.
you
That's true. Yeah. You get like the item finder and the what's the other one?
and a few other things
Yeah, I can't remember.
that
Anyway,
we will
yes, no,
remember
you're
as soon
right.
as we log off this call.
Absolutely. The XP share
That's right.
was one of them. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But I think that's very little, right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can you don't need those things. The only one I think you need is you do get Flash as one of them.
Yes. That's
So
the first one, I
actually,
think, right?
now that I think about it, I don't think it's the first one. I think this one. I think one of the other ones is not important. Doesn't matter. Let's not get sidetracked. It's late. Um, and there's probably listeners going, please do get sidetracked. Uh, Goodness me. That I feel like has rarely been repeated. Like, it is weird how the first games
Hmm.
had that, right? They had this idea of there are some things locked behind, but most of the time it's like, oh, in Scarlet and Violet, it's like, oh, you've got some rewards, but it's like, here's some candy and here's some balls, and it's not, there's nothing locked behind it. It's all just kind of like additional items. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's an interesting point. For such a collection focused game, they don't lock anything really behind the collection of those creatures. Hmm. Very interesting. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Pokemon. That's the other podcast I'm on this week. We we're here to talk about farming games and cottage. We're here to talk about other games. So we're going to talk about some news. Above Snakes has a new update coming out. It's called the Most Wanted update. And it's got some new biomes. It's got some a new missions feature. It's got some new items, and more. And that is out now. I was going to say if you're listening to this after it comes out, but of course you are. Of course you're listening to this after it comes out. Jonnie, it's not out for you yet. Everybody else is out for you.
Congratulations, everyone else.
Yes. Congratulations, people from the future.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Above Snakes kind of came out and I haven't really heard much about it. Like, I'm still interested in playing it, but in the same way I feel like I'm interested in playing a lot of games I never actually get to. So,
it's certainly not pumping its way up the list. This is the problem, right?
Yeah. And this content patch doesn't really seem to add anything that's like, oh, okay, this looks like it's getting really, really good and makes me sort of excited to jump in. But good to see that they're still supporting the game.
Speaking of games with updates that I haven't played yet and they haven't really encouraged me to play it, SteamWorld Build have a new update called the Jingle Bolts update, which, by the way, great name, love it, perfect. No notes.
I have one note. Oh. But it's mostly that, look, I'm kind of just over Christmas, like, seasonal updates in games. I get why they do them, but haven't we done them all at this point?
Well, this is a winter update. The update transforms your mining town from a western wilderness to a snowy winter wonderland with all the festive spirit. So, yeah, I wonder if this is... So we have two kinds of games with seasons. We have the games with seasons where they are based on how long you've played in the game, and there are the ones which are based on real life. And I cannot tell on this what this is. Like, is it just all the games for this next month are all winter?
I cannot tell either. I also don't really know, like, I don't quite get what SteamWorld Build is, if I'm being entirely honest.
It's a city builder.
Yeah,
that's all it. That's all it is. It might be a good one. I'm not sure. I've not played it. I don't really like city builders anymore. I've come to accept that. They don't have any dates on this as to when. Like, not like Ooblets had a winter event, and they're like, oh, it's live between these dates. I can't see anything about this being live between particular dates, so I'm not sure what the deal is with that. Or is this like a mode that you turn on? I can't tell. They don't seem to say.
Communication seems not.
Yeah.
But they are saying, however this one works, they are planning more seasonal updates in 2024.
Yep, so if you like this, look forward to more.
Speaking of more...
Fae Farm.
So 2.0 is out. Al, how does this rate in your desire for patch number updates to follow some sort of pattern that makes sense?
I think they could drop the third number from it. Like, I don't know why it needs to be 2.0.0, because I think they're proving to this that when they add more content to the game, they're increasing the main number, and therefore they could just have this is version 2, and then the update that gives bug fixes is 2.1. I don't think they need the third number, but they're doing a lot better than a lot of other developers are. This is pretty close. Thank you for actually increasing the first number, because nobody ever seems to do that in games. They have it 0 for early access, they hit 1.0, and then it's always 1 point something forever, and it drives me insane.
Yeah. And it feels like there's actually a sizable update here to go with it. So Coast
Come on, we're not here to actually talk about the content. We're here to talk about version numbers.
Look, we don't want to spend an hour talking about it, because I know we could.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Coasts of Croakia. I don't really know what this means in terms of what has been added. I assume it's a new location.
That it is. It's a new location that you access by going through a portal inside the mouth of a giant frog.
Great. I mean, that makes as much sense as anything else in Fae Farm.
It does. It's perfect. I love it. So yeah, the new area is called Croakia, and there's a bunch of stuff in that. I haven't looked about features and stuff like that. I suspect it's mostly focused on story.
Yeah, and a lot of the I assume there's quite a bit of story attached to it, and it looks like there's a lot of sort of quality of life updates that they're making alongside
Mhm.
this update.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the one thing that I don't really see in this list is much around um, improving the characters. Like there is a section called World and Characters. It's there is one line that all vendors and NPCs now have new and unique dialogue rather than using the same shared pool of lines. The problem with those original lines is they were so bad that it's like, well, I'm
Yeah.
not sure that the writing just has felt missing in this game for a long time. So I'm not sure it's enough to kind of lure me in.
Yes. Yeah. There's now you're going to see more of the same repeated lines that you don't care about. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like the most amazing update that we would be wanting for that.
Yeah, I think given how because I've heard that feedback in a number of places. Cody and I talked about it from a news article last week, and so I feel like given how big of a criticism it has been, when it's actually fixed, it's something that they will put front and center.
Yeah, or they might just not. So, like, part of my thing is I don't want to talk about this too much just now because I do talk about it in next week's episode, but I think they never really wanted to do relationships in this game, and they didn't really care about like the NPCs in the village, but they felt like they needed to add that sort of feature in, and therefore that's what we got. And they like the other aspects of the game, and the other aspects of the game are good, and they're just going to continue with that and ignore the one that they never wanted to do in the first place.
That makes quite a bit of sense. Um, Anything else in the patch notes that stand out to you that sound interesting?
Not particularly. I agree with you about the quality of life improvements sound good. I haven't had enough time in the game to be like, oh yes, that one in particular is really going to make my gameplay more enjoyable, because I'm spending too much time in Coral Island, realistically. But yeah, looks good. Keep at it. Keep more updates. And there's currently planned two more DLCs that I know of. I wonder whether they'll add more in the future or not. I don't know. But just a reminder, if you have this on Switch, you will have the DLC added on automatically. If you bought the deluxe version on Steam, you will have this automatically. If you bought the base one on Steam, you'll have to buy the DLC separately. Garden Galaxy, a new
Yeah.
update. I mean, it just feels like it's yet another Garden Galaxy update. If the other Garden Galaxy updates haven't enticed you to play the game, this one's not going to do it either. But there's more items. There you
Yep.
go.
And I feel like every time I look at Garden Galaxy, I'm like, that's right, I really need to play this game. And then I forget about it until next time I'm on the show and they have another update and the cycle resets itself.
The new items look cool. That's all.
Yep, I agree.
It's out now again. Comes out today, the day the episode comes out. So if you like Garden Galaxy, go get that update. Go get your more items. Traveler's Rest also have a new update. Everybody's releasing updates in December. What is this nonsense? It is out now. It contains a new crop system. The new now crops have specific seasons in which they can be planted. In addition, they need to be watered every 3 days for them to grow. The amount of time each crop takes to grow varies. Fruit trees no longer need to be planted in tilled soil, don't require watering, and they never die, although they only bear fruits. I mean, none of this seems like fundamentally different from other farming games, except for you don't have to water them every day, which is interesting.
Well, I think that's quite cool. Like, that's a mechanic that makes a lot of sense, right? Not every plant needs to be watered the same amount. So that's a cool little addition. But in general, I still feel about Traveler's Rest that it's a little bit too much, just like everything else. And I wish it was more different.
And I'm constantly fascinated as to what this game had when it came into early access, because every time there's an update, I'm like, oh, so it didn't have that either. Like, what did this game have when its first version came out? The first version came out 3 years ago.
Oh my god.
July 2020, apparently.
Well, in 3 more years, when 1.0 comes out, we probably won't have time to review it.
Well, definitely not, because this was the one that, like, a few months ago they came out with the tavern, like they actually then drinks and staff. That's what it was. In September, they came out with drinks, and I'm like, this is a game about a tavern, and you didn't have drinks. What did you have? I'm so confused. So yeah, there's new crops, new weather phenomena, chances of rain, thunderstorms, snow, and wind, which will affect animals and crops. Okay, and new crops and recipes.
Yep, sounds like a content update for that game.
Yep. Yes, it's starting to sound like it might have some of the features of Stardew Valley.
Yes. And if you've been playing Traveler's Rest in early access and you have some thoughts on it, send them to us. We would love to know a little bit about it because, as you can tell, we are utterly fascinated every time this game has an update.
Yeah, what did you do in this game?
Right.
I want to know what people have been doing in this game. A last song. Is this the underwater one where you're trying to get rid of bad stuff? What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't really know what
pollution.
Pollution. Yeah. It looks pollution-y.
I think we've talked about this one before. Anyway, they have a new trailer out. That's all.
It looks cute. And I assume there's from the looks of the trailer, there's some sort of rhythm element, so that immediately eliminates me from being able to play this game.
Yeah, it's still coming out next year. Ever After Falls also have a new trailer. Apparently, this is a backers only update. Apologies. So they have a new trailer and they've released a beta, which some Kickstarter backers can get.
Great. I much prefer beta than early access, right? It's the much clearer that you're paying for something or you're getting access to something that is not finished. So
I don't think we need to get into that debate again today.
we do not, but I just because I feel like I haven't seen a beta announcement in a long time. So I'm just saying I enjoy.
Yeah, Snacko did that. They had an alpha and a beta, and now they're in early access.
Okay, I don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's a pretty polished game as of now. Anyway, let's not get into that. We've got 2 new games to talk about, and I don't know whether if you've got a list of Lego Fortnite, Hello Kitty Adventure, Hello Kitty Island Adventure, and these 2 games that we're about to talk about on a list, I don't know which I would say was the most likely one I would expect and which is the least likely one I would expect, and I'm very fascinated as to all of these. The first one is called Tiny Garden, and the way I've described this is basically Polly Pocket farming. Did you ever have Polly Pockets when you were younger, Jonnie?
So I have a niece who's 5, and she has Polly Pockets right now. And I have played a lot of Polly Pocket in the last month.
Are they still a thing? I'm so happy they're still a thing. That's fantastic.
They are very much still a thing, and this gives big Polly Pocket vibes.
It's exactly what it is. You've got this little thing that you open up, and it's a little world inside this little, presumably handheld thing, and it looks really interesting.
I like the idea. So there's a little crank on the side, and the crank
is that moving time. That's
moving time. Yeah.
It is.
So that being the idea that you've got a limited space, you plan stuff out, you turn the crank, and stuff happens over time. That seems like quite a cool little mechanic. This just has a really great little look for a kind of idle-ish, cozy game.
I need this on the Playdate.
I was thinking that this would be a great Playdate thing because the crank seems like a key feature, and
it would need a fundamental rethink about the graphics because the graphics are way too complicated for the Playdate. But this could be great on the Playdate because they've already got the crank, right? They've because the problem with the Playdate is figuring out what's your mechanic with the crank going to be, and they have an interesting, unique feature. Which so many games are just let me just do this one. Let me think up the feature for the crank later, rather than let me have I like this. Oh.
Yeah. Anyway. Sorry, just to fill in the blanks. So the gameplay looks like on the base of the Polly Pocket is where you're doing all of your farming, and you're growing vegetables, which in the tweet they say you sell to then add furniture to what would be the upper level, I guess, or the bit that sort of sits vertically, which I think is just a great concept. But this is in prototype, so I didn't see anything even a tentative release date or anything like that.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely nothing about that or any ideas of it. It's just here's a first thought, and come follow us and we'll tell you more about it later, sort of thing. I'm just tweeting at them to tell them to put it on Playdate. So next we have Tamagotchi Adventure Kingdom.
Woo! I'm very excited about this one, Al.
Well, so tell me why you're excited about this one and why it's different from Hello Kitty, other than just it's Tamagotchi, which doesn't really have characters, I might add.
Yeah, look, I don't really want, so brains are stupid, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And you're right, Tamagotchi had 0 characters. But you know what Tamagotchi had? An important place in my life, and everyone just referred to Tamagotchi. So when I see Tamagotchi and it's a farming game, I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. I want all of this, even though there is no connection to anything else that's happening in the game other than the word Tamagotchi. And it looks great. So I just didn't grow up with Hello Kitty, so that one I'm just like, meh, I don't really have any connection to this. Tamagotchi, though, that word triggers a thing in my brain, apparently.
So the important question is, are you subscribing to Apple Arcade for this?
I mean...
You can drive a car! Ah! Oh, no!
The long answer I want to say is no, but the short answer is yes. I will probably sign up to Apple Arcade to play Tamagotchi Adventure Kingdom.
You can drive a car.
Yeah, this game looks amazing.
What was that? There's a little random... Oh, there's a squirrel. It's a squirrel. Oh, for goodness sake. There's like what looks like a kind of weird version of the carriage in... What's the Disney story with the glass slipper? What's that one?
Cinderella.
You know the like pumpkin carriage in that? It's like a pink version of that near the end, next to what looks like a big castle. Do you see that?
Yeah. So I missed that the first time I watched through, but yeah, you're right. This is
definitely a castle.
Yeah, that's a castle. That's definitely a carriage. So minor thing. I love that the dates that you've got written down here is coming Jan 4th. In the trailer, they say expected January 4th, which, if that doesn't mean it's not coming on January 4th, I don't know what does.
Yeah, I will say, though, the description on YouTube does say coming rather than expected. I wonder if it's meant to be a pun. I don't know. Like, is this a Tamagotchi thing? Like, because your Tamagotchi comes in as an egg first, right?
Yes.
And so when you have like a child or you're pregnant, you say you're expecting. And so if you have an egg that's going to hatch, would you say you're expecting as well? Is that what they're doing here?
I don't know. We'll need to bring in someone that's laid an egg and ask them what they...
I'm just saying, like, I think it's a pun rather than hey, we might not release on this date.
Right. Well, if it is a pun, it's not a very good one. But everything else in this game looks pretty good.
I agree it's not a good pun. But my point is, this released on the 12th of December, right? If they don't know it's coming out on the 4th of January, it's not coming out on the 4th of January, because that is like 3 work days before the 4th of January, basically.
Not in America.
Like, that is basically no time.
In America, it's like 100 work days between the two.
You're assuming that this is worked on by Americans?
Yes.
It's Bandai Namco. They're a Japanese developer.
Whatever, they're all the same.
Japan, America, who can tell the difference?
No, I mean, ultimately, this just looks like a game where cute animals run around a thing. Like, to me, it seems a lot like the Hello Kitty Island Adventure. So, I don't actually have high expectations for the game itself, but, Tamagotchi.
I'm going to end up comparing this to Hello Kitty Island Adventure. That's what I'm going to do. I'm sorry. It's just going to have to happen.
Yeah.
Because it looks like a very similar game. It looks like there's exploration. The world looks kind of very... They evoke the same imagery. Why does that pool have a face on it?
Why would it not have a face on it?
Go to 8 seconds in when he's like chopping up the wood.
Oh yeah, it does have a face.
Why does that have a face on it?
Why would it not have a face?
Is that a sentient pool?
Yeah. And I think even like in the first 2 seconds there's another pool. And maybe it's the same one, but you can also see the face on it. Maybe all of the pools are alive.
No, that's a different one. That one doesn't have a mustache.
Yeah. So, look, the pools are alive. Oh yeah, the one in the house also has a face. All of the pools in this game are alive, and that makes me even more excited. I feel like sometime in 2024 we're going to need to do the Hello Kitty Island Adventure versus Tamagotchi Adventure Kingdom Ultimate Showdown SmackDown. Maddie can be on, I can be on, and we can just argue for hours over which of these cute little games is better.
Yeah, I guess my worry about this is that it might feel a bit hollow because the characters won't really exist. Like, unless they do something really well and they go, we're going to create all these characters out of thin air and you're going to care about them now, feels unlikely. Like,
Honestly,
that's really hard to do.
These characters are super cute though, so it could happen.
Sure. But then it's just the same thing. It's just they're all cute, which doesn't really work.
I'm going to point you to like every Ooblets episode because that's all those little doofuses have going on, and you guys love that stupid game.
Sure.
Also, at one point, one of these characters smashes a rock by just bashing his head into it. If that's not amazing, I don't know what it is.
I will say that the Ooblets are not the thing you play Ooblets for. There's a lava lamp as well. Toadstool table.
Honestly, this trailer's ridiculous. It's 30 seconds. I've probably watched it 20 times now, and every time I feel like I see something new that makes me more excited to play this game.
You're going to make me play this game, aren't you?
I don't have to make you at this point. It's just going to happen.
Oh, he does just smash his head into it. That's adorable. Oh, for goodness sake. Now the question is, do I sign up to Apple Arcade just now and play the Sonic game until then? Or do I wait and just play this?
Look, don't play the Sonic game, Al. Don't do that to yourself. Why do Sonic fans insist on hurting themselves?
Tamagotchi Island Adventure. Sorry, Adventure Kingdom. I don't get better names.
No, it's all just word salad. Don't they just I think they do it Mad Lib style.
It really does feel like you've got adventure in there and you've got the name of your franchise and then another random one. Why am I surprised there was a castle? It's called Adventure Kingdom. It's like being surprised that Hello Kitty Island Adventure has the sea.
I think because we're so used to just glossing over the terrible names that we have to deal with in cottagecore games that it's just we assume that they don't need.
It's just words. I think this is the first time I've parsed the words and what they actually mean. All right, we're going to talk about Lego Fortnite. The good thing about doing this episode is it means that I don't have to think about it again after today.
You and me both.
Okay, so Lego Fortnite. We talked about this a little bit in last week's episode and next week's episode. Just to confuse you. Spoilers. But for some reason, Fortnite added in a Lego version of their game into their game, except that it's not a version of the game. It's Lego Minecraft. It's Minecraft if Lego did it. And for some reason, inside Fortnite.
Well, I mean, to hit on the some reason for just a little bit, this is about Fortnite becoming a platform and not just a game anymore, right? Because they released Lego Fortnite, some racing game, and some rhythm game all at the same time that are all in Fortnite, but they're not Fortnite.
Yeah,
so.
But why? Why are they not separate games?
Because Fortnite, my assumption is that Fortnite has become such a compelling brand that they believe that people will play it if it's are more likely to play it if it is in Fortnite. So this is kind of proving that you could sell other games in Fortnite. So you might have, can you imagine, you have what's the original thing that Fortnite was, like Fortnite Save the World or whatever? Imagine if that comes back as a new game in Fortnite that people pay money for. That's the future we could see. But
you're not paying for them either. It's free.
Well, these are free, right? But this is proving this proves out the case of whether you want people to buy stuff or it just provides more versions of cosmetics for people to buy in Fortnite. It just expands the number of hours that people would play in a Fortnite-owned thing.
So, okay, sure. But they didn't need to be the same game to do that. This is what I'm confused about.
To me, I think it's the difference between, you don't have to go and actively download a different thing. You're thinking about this like an adult that's grown up on Steam and, storefronts and used to going and buying games everywhere else. If all you've done is play a lot of Fortnite, and then in your Fortnite client, they say, download this new game, Lego Fortnite... That's the thing. That's your storefront, is Fortnite.
This is because of Roblox, isn't it? Because Roblox is exactly this. It is not necessarily... Well, it's not exactly this. It's different because you can add user-generated games to it. But I I feel like this is in response to Roblox because Fortnite was a game, Roblox was a platform, and now Fortnite is also a platform. Just because it's not user generated stuff doesn't mean it's not the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to head down the path of getting user generated stuff in there as well.
Yeah. Oh, joys. All right, cool. So we've gone over the for some reason. Do you want to start? You've been playing it.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with I'm not a big survival game person in general. So I wasn't expecting for me to love it, and I found the survival aspects quite difficult. I died quite a bit more than I have in like Minecraft or other games. I guess I was expecting
Mhm.
this one to be a little bit easier, and there's lots of options, right? So you could turn stuff off, and I think I ended up turning off like
Yes.
needing to eat food, but turning off like the monsters kind of felt like a step too far. But I kind of wish I had done that. uh, and it is just one of these sort of survival crafting games at its core. There's not too much that it's doing that's different, I guess, other than the building. And I think the building is quite good because it uses the Lego block mechanic, and you can. But it starts you off not with having to build everything brick by brick. You start with some templates, and so you can build like an actual shed a lot easier than just having to collect the bricks and building your first house in Minecraft, which typically takes not that it's hard to do, but it takes a little bit longer maybe to work out and put everything together.
Yeah. I think so. A Lego Minecraft clone, if you will, makes perfect sense, right? I think we can probably agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I played Minecraft so much when I was younger. Like during my like it's I mean it's wild how long Minecraft's been going for and the fact that it's still going. I I remember picking it up when I was in university and I would literally play like through the night. Every night sitting up playing this stupid game that I loved so much. I don't play it anymore because obviously I'm an adult. I have a life now. I can't just spend all night doing it. But I I get why they're doing. I get why Lego are doing this. We can ignore the Fortnite aspect of it because they certainly ignored the Fortnite aspect of it. Um, I didn't have a huge amount of fun playing this game, and I don't know whether that's because the game doesn't jive with me in some way that Minecraft did, or whether, and this is the problem with this kind of game, whether I just don't have the time and the life for it anymore. Would I have enjoyed this game more if it had come out when I was in uni rather than now?
I'm gonna take a guess and say I don't think so. For me, like, and equally, I was never a big Minecraft person. But when I like have tried Minecraft in the past, I get it, right? Like I see the magic that is in Minecraft when the first time you punch a bit of the ground and it appears in your inventory, and then you're like, what? And you can kind of just put it down anywhere. Like there's some magic in that,
Mm,
and that's what this game misses.
mm,
From what I've seen, you can build some really impressive stuff, but in the time that I spent with the game, that felt so unachievable and so far away.
mhm.
Whereas in Minecraft, it's just you get started, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's missing.
That's a good point because the world in Minecraft is made of the things that you build with, whereas this is the world isn't all. It's not the same thing, right? Like if it was like Lego, where everything was like visibly made of Lego, because obviously it is made of Lego, right? But it's not visibly made of Lego, if that makes
Hmm.
sense, right? Like you can't go, oh, there's that block. Like you look at a tree in Minecraft and you go, oh, I can see that's a wood block, that's a wood block, that's a wood block, uh, a leaves block, that's a leaves block, that's a leaves block. And then you can look at everything else in the game other than like animals, which you can't make anyway because that wouldn't make any sense. Everything else is visibly made of blocks. And so you can visibly see what it is and recreate it or build your own things. And it's that visual aspect of things I think that is missing, right? Like you can build things, but it turns into, it's not the exact same as if you were literally making this in real life, right? You could make Minecraft blocks in real life and you could build them exactly like you do in the game.
I think I think that is exactly it, right? You are going and you are collecting wood or chopping trees, and then you're using the wood to make Lego blocks,
Mm-hmm.
to make wooden Lego blocks. You're not chopping down, you're not taking the wooden block that is used to make the Lego tree and repurposing it. And I think that's the disconnect that stops me from this game being what I think I wanted it to be based on my initial perception. And I get why they've done what they've done, right? I think the game that we're talking about is substantially more difficult to make,
Yes.
but it is also undeniably way more Lego.
Yeah. I guess that's it's interesting that we're still at the point where Minecraft has made a better Lego game than Lego has. Um,
Yep.
some random guy in Sweden made a better Lego game than the corporation that owns Lego. Okay, so aesthetics wise, um, although like that fundamental point aside, it still feels like it looks and feels Lego, even if the like building part isn't. I like there's something still fundamentally fun about being a Lego minifig even if you don't enjoy playing the game. I've always thought that about Lego games. I've never really liked any Lego game. I've tried so many of them and I've never really liked how they work and how they control. But there is still something fundamentally fun about being a Lego minifig.
Yeah, I love being a Lego minifig, and I think there's two Lego games that I really enjoyed. The first one was the very first Lego Star Wars. That game was just incredible, and that sort of spawned the whole Lego X genre. And I don't think anything else really captured the magic in the way that first game did. And the second, it was like an old PC game from like '96, and I don't remember what the subtitle is. And I just have memories of being like 6 or 7 and playing this kind of terrible now Lego adjacent game where you sort of drive around a city that's very empty, and at some point you turn your car into a building or something like that, and it's all just very cutscene driven, and nothing really like that Lego-y happens. But for a 6 or 7 year old who loves Lego, at the time that was incredible.
Is it Lego Creator?
Uh, I don't know.
Because that
Potentially.
looks like because based on your description of the mechanics, I think that's the only one from the 90s I can see that fits it.
Let's
There's
say
like
it
a
was that
race.
then.
Hmm?
Yes, this is it. Yeah, Lego
Okay.
Creator. This was the game.
I can see how you'd like that. Yeah, I never tried any of them when I was a kid. So I've come to them later in life and just never really clicked with them.
That's fair.
But
So shall we talk about the farming a little bit, or I guess the one thing that this does quite different to Minecraft is there's this
mhm.
village aspect. Did you get into the village aspect that much?
Not a huge amount because well, I started playing Pokemon again. It's always Pokemon, isn't it? But I think that in terms of the farming, I think the clearly farming was part of the initial thought process of this game, whereas with Minecraft, it was very much, we could add this aspect into the game. And although we did cover Minecraft as a farming game on the podcast before we were officially cottagecore, it is very much not a farming game, right? Like there's like 4 crops or something, and that's about it, and they're very basic. Um,
Yeah.
this one feels much more like farming was thought of as a core thing they wanted to add to the game rather than an additional thing later on.
Yeah, it's definitely more planned out, and I guess taking a step back and looking slightly wider from a cottagecore aspect, this has much stronger cottagecore vibes than games like Minecraft do, because you are fundamentally building a village and you can attract villagers to your village, and they help out with tasks around the village, which is quite a cool little concept. But the farming itself, I think, is, yeah, like you say, it's definitely more thought through. In particular, I think that the mechanic I like the most is just in order to attract animals to be able to farm them for resources, is you have to find the food they like and just literally lay out a trail. Like you're a witch trying to attract children into your house. You just literally lay out a trail and lure them into the pen, and then build a gate or shut the gate behind them, and that's how you acquire animals for your farm, which I quite like.
Yeah, yeah, that does sound fun. I mean, I don't have a huge amount to add to this. Like, I literally didn't do any part of that. I kind of, the first bit where you pop in, you're like, oh, what happened? Where am I? And then you like build a fire and you explore the world a little bit. That was it. That was what I did.
Also, I guess the crop growing, because it is crop growing as well. It's you get seeds, you put seeds in ground, you don't have to water them; they just grow. But you can, so you can assign farmers, villagers to harvest crops and do things like that. So there is automation in this game, which I guess is quite nice, and that's the role the villagers play. But it's not, I guess, super deep in that aspect. And realistically, everything in this game seems to be geared towards, get materials to get more materials to build cool Lego creations, which I think is the gameplay loop that I presume if you are coming to a game like this that you are looking for. And I think the cool thing that it does from a sort of cottage core kind of vibe is the ability to make a town is a cool thing to do, because so many of the games we play in this genre either have predetermined towns, like
Yeah.
Stardew Valley or Coral Island, or they have towns that are sort of semi-predetermined, like Animal Crossing, where yes, you could terraform it and you invite villagers or whatever, but actually, the core buildings that you have there, your shops or whatever, are pretty much the same island to island. So the variation is more decorative than anything else. Um, so to have something where I guess you can build the village that you want and have villagers participate in it in a way that you want is uh, it's a novel concept. And while it didn't necessarily land for me in this game, it's something I would be keen to see in other games. Maybe
Mhm.
somewhere where rather than moving to a town that already exists, if you move to somewhere that doesn't have a town and you're trying to build it up and attract more people to live there, and maybe be a little bit directional about, you're going to go be the general storekeeper, or you're going to be the doctor, or whatever it might be, is a concept that's kind of appealing to me, having tried Lego Fortnite.
Yeah, yeah, that does sound interesting. Because yeah, I think you're right. The only ones that we have that have any kind of sandbox element, it's how do you lay these out? Here are your building blocks. How do you lay them out? Which is not the same thing as create a town, right? Because you got, we had oh, what was it called? Oh goodness, I've forgotten the name. There was the really good, really nice 2D 8-bit style one, Littlewoods. Is that what it's called, Littlewood?
Oh yes, Littlewoods,
That
yeah.
one was another one which was quite sandboxy, but it was very much like, yeah, here's a new villager. Where do they go? And it was always the same villager,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So you could make drastically different looking towns, but again, it was just 10 things that you had to put in the place. And then you can build around that how you want.
Yeah, and I guess Lego doesn't, I didn't really attract too much in the way of villages. I don't think they have, distinct personalities or anything like that.
That's
But it's,
probably that's probably our difficult balancing act to make, right? We're gonna dislike one aspect of it. Either it's going to be too samey, or the people are not going to have any personality, right? Like, unless you're going to design 100 people with unique personalities, and you will get 10 of them, right? Unless you end up, which is a ridiculous amount of work. Unless you do that, you're not going to end up with both of those things.
yeah, I guess it makes me, I'll say, curious for a generative AI, application of coming up with dialogue and interesting characters, because we are in the realm where it is theoretically possible. If someone wants to do that today, I imagine it would be horrendously bad in a way that I kind of would like to try, and maybe
We love
slightly
a car
concerning.
crash.
Yeah. I guess that's the sort of thing that I see as being possible now when you start to play games like these, I'm like, oh, I wonder how hard it is for generic dialogue to be somewhat automatically generated.
Mm-hmm. Someone's going to do it with AI.
Yep. And
we're going to hate that for different reasons.
Yep.
We've now created a situation where we have 3 different car crashes that we could look from, and which one will somebody decide to do next?
Yes.
I look forward to the one that does AI, but everything still feels samey somehow. Because their model that they built was a very small model.
Right.
They made a model of because they didn't want to have any copyright issues, of course, so they just wrote 100 dialogue lines themselves, and they fed that into an AI, and funnily enough, everything out of that felt the same. Because that person didn't understand how large language models work.
In particular, the first word being large.
Well, yeah, that too.
I guess I don't really have that much more to say on Lego Fortnite. Like I was kind of keen to
I want to go to bed.
I was just keen to cover it because I think it's something that sort of feels cottagecore adjacent. I think it's, again, probably if you were looking at it and you were a little bit curious, you probably know whether or not you like this game before you play it. I think, probably multiplayer would help improve, playing it with people would improve it, just like Minecraft, just like one of those games. But equally, I kind of feel like my recommendation to most people that look at this and go, oh, I might try it, would be just go back into Minecraft and play that with your friends, because I think everything just feels easier, right? And maybe this is a symptom of you and I being old and tired and time poor. We're like, just make it easy, because this one just didn't feel easy enough. It could also be that I've never played a game of Fortnite in my life, so I was learning the controls and everything for the first time.
I do feel like there is one person who would really like this game, and that's the person that likes Minecraft, but is very obsessed with Lego, like to a ridiculous point. Like, obviously, we both like Lego. We have a lot of Lego stuff. We probably spend too much money on Lego, but not to the point that Lego would overtake anything else, right? There's a kind of person who loves Lego so much they play all the Lego games, no matter which one they are, because they just love Lego. It's like me with Pokemon, right? Like, I will do everything Pokemon because I love Pokemon. I love everything about it. And if Pokemon did a Minecraft clone, of course I'm going to play it and love it. That kind of person with Lego would love this game.
Yeah. And look, I'm super excited to get into Lego Fortnite YouTube and see the cool things that people are building in this game. I just don't have the time or the energy to build them myself.
That is the best way to play these games sometimes. It was like, I had so much fun playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I really did. And I put 150 hours into that. I had so much fun doing it. But I also had just as much fun watching people do ridiculous things online.
Yeah, it's just I think Zelda's a great comparison, right? Where it's just like the creative things that people can come up with to build was so much fun to watch. The thought of going through the process of working out how to build all of that stuff is overwhelming. So I'm really pleased that there's people out there that are willing to do that and to put it on there. And I think that's probably the best way to engage with Lego Fortnite.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming and doing this. So we've done it, so we don't have to do it again.
Until one of us gets really sucked into Lego Fortnite over the Christmas break, and it's like, hell, maybe we'll do a second harvest.
No, it's not. It's not going to happen. There's too many other things to play.
There's way too many other things.
Thank you, Jonnie, for joining us. Before I fall asleep, tell me what to care about.
The thing that people should care about this year, look, it's coming into Christmas. Times are tough for everyone. Just care about the people around you. I think that's my message is, particularly in the age of the internet, care about the people that you talk to. They don't have, when I say the people around you, it doesn't have to be the people physically around you. Elle and I are maybe about as far away from each other as we could possibly be. But it's still nice that,
You got slightly closer when you moved.
I did. Actually, yes. I am marginally closer. Yeah, I
Because
don't
the,
know.
the
Just
literal the literal was it antipoint of me is like just off the coast of New Zealand.
but if you feel like you have a little bit extra to give, THS Pod or Patreon.com/THS Pod, give a little bit to this great endeavor that Al does, and you can join us in the Slack. You can ask questions. You can talk about all of the cottagecore games that you're playing over the Christmas break. We'd love to hear about them. I guess those are my two key messages for before we sign off.
Cool. Thank you very much. Next week, we have our Game of the Year episode. As I mentioned, there's no news in that one because we've recorded it already. Come listen to what we've decided is the podcast's Game of the Year. I'm sure many people will be annoyed by it. We'll see what happens.
I can't wait to be annoyed by
it. Will you be annoyed by it? Probably. I think you will be annoyed by it.
Will I be annoyed by it, Al? I get annoyed by everything. I'll find a way.
Yeah, so come to that. We've got the podcast on Tumblr and on Twitter at THS Pod. Come follow if you want to get updates on the podcast. You can follow me on mastodon.scott and on Twitter at the Scottbot. You can find links to everything to do with the podcast and everything we talked about in both the show notes and on our website, harvestseason.club, where you can also find the link to the Patreon that Jonnie suggested as well. We'll have an extra episode on there soon about the after the Game of the Year episode. We'll have the non-farming Game of the Year episode, which we don't crown a winner because it's just about what we liked. It's not the same thing, but we had a good chat over those two episodes. We recorded like what was it, 3.5 hours of content over those two episodes. So good luck.
Look, it's a good time of the year. It's a time of year people are around their family, but they get maybe a little bit tired of their family. Yeah. So 3.5 hours
to us instead.
Exactly.
Cool, great. I have no idea if I've said everything or not, but it is literally just turned into Monday, so I am going to bed. Thank you, Jonnie, again for joining me.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. And until next time, have a good harvest. The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode.
You alive?
I am somewhat alive, but yeah, I'm going to bed. I'm glad I did this rather than having to get up earlier in the morning, especially as we're doing that later in the week.